It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez!
Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Justin, and this is my brother Matt. And today, in our first segment, we're going to get into some off-season women's pro cycling transfer news and our thoughts looking ahead to the 2025 season. In our second segment, we're going to discuss our top 3 moments of last year in women's pro cycling. And finally, in our last segment, we're going to discuss the fun podcast, 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, the 2000s, hosted by Rob Harvilla, which started its new season a couple weeks ago. So join us as we take another ride beyond the slipstream. Allez!
Allez!
Hey, big brother, how are you today?
I am good. How about you?
Not too bad. Very busy week. All right. So, first segment, we're talking about transfer news. The first thing I wanted to ask you about, because it seems like it's really big news, but I don't have a lot of reference to it because I don't have, a ton of history with cycling. It seems like it's a really big deal that Anna van der Breggen is returning to SD Works. And yeah, I mean, I obviously understand that she was retired, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, she's not returning to SD Works because she's been working for the team nonstop since she retired from racing. She's coming back to racing this year. I don't know. I mean, there's been sporting comebacks in every sport for a tale as old as time. There's always somebody doing that comeback and a lot of anticipation when they come back. And, it's for better or for worse. I mean, Tom Brady came back and won a Super Bowl. The goat got it done, and then gave me one of my favorite sporting moments that entire year, which is when he was standing on the boat and tossed the with the Lombardi trophy across the drink to Gronk or whatever. It was so funny.
It goes to show you how comfortable he was with that trophy.
I know. He's like, I got 9 of these laying around the garage.
Yeah, I let the kids used to play with them when they were babies. They were just running around the house with them.
So there's always like a lot of anticipation with it when a superstar comes back. And I mean, she's clearly in the conversation for one of the best ever. Her palmares are outrageous. I didn't brush up on it, but she had multiple world championships on both road and TT. I think she was out before the women's Tour de France. I think her last season may have been the season before the women's TDF. So I think Annemiek won it the first time. Mm-hmm. And then Demi got it the second time and then got it. So she didn't get a crack at that. Perhaps that is why she's coming back, is she's like, I want that on my career palmares. Who knows? But, I mean, she was an absolute beast, and if she has been right there side by side with Demi Vollering for the past 2 years, I mean, it's not like she doesn't know the person who's about to be her biggest opponent very, very well. So, I mean, I see that as only playing in her favor. But, the question is, she's been out for 2.5 years. Will she still have it?
Is she one of the ones that's been doing the gravel on the side though? Has she not been racing?
I don't believe so. At least I don't feel like I've heard any. I
don't know. I know that's one of those paths that a lot of riders take is they take the break from the road stuff and go to the gravel.
I would think that someone like that, if she was staying in gravel or something like that, or cross, would have been there at the World Championships, and I can't recall seeing her facing her. So I'm going to guess no. Who knows?
So you brought up a good point about the fact that so Demi Vollering is leaving SD Works to go to FDJ, and so obviously that changes the landscape of SD Works. But that's not the only big transfer. Obviously, that's huge. Her leaving that team because she is obviously the really really big star out of that group. But they're also losing Marlon Reusser and Neem Fisher Black. Which those are those are two big pieces of that team in my opinion, and definitely were like key in Demi's win in the Tour de France, and just they're always there mixing, they're always in the mix, contributing, and now the landscape of that team is very different. It's being it's essentially you kind of breaking it up, and everybody's going their own way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think they're now going to say, okay, I'm pretty sure they put Lotte Kopecky on a big long term contract, sort of like the Wout Van Aert thing, and I think now that team is going to be all about her. I mean, I think their lack of success. They're still going to have their sprinter. Their sprinter. Weebus, and I think sort of like Weebus is, I don't know, Weebus is her goals are sort of parallel to Lotte Kopecky's, just not as broad. I mean, I think Kopecky is she led the Tour de France Femme for the entire thing 2 years ago until the last day, basically, when she handed it off to her teammate. So I don't know, maybe they're to move Kopecky into more of a stage racing threat and let Vivas mop up but that doesn't really make sense though, because Kopecky is like the current world championship. That woman is an incredible one-day racer. So
no, that's what I mean. And like is it going to be the Anna Van? Is it going to be again? It seems like they're trying to do the split thing.
Oh wait, I'm forgetting about Anna Van Bregen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's the landscape of that team is very very different. And I mean, it's different, but it's also the same. You're going to have the same competing situation where you've got, the world champion on one side, you've got the return now instead of having, one of the most dominant, just crazy focused riders in the Peloton, in the women's pro Peloton, instead of her, now you've got a legend coming back. It seems like a lot of huge personalities on that team to manage with. And where does the focus go?
It's interesting because, that was the setup that they had essentially for the past 3 years. And before this past season, they were crushing it with that formula. They mopped up everything 2 seasons ago in 2023. Like, they were completely dominant. I'm pretty sure, I feel like Vollering won at least 2 of the 3 Grand Tours.
Well, she won the Tour. She definitely won the Tour de France last year, not this past year, but
in 23.
In 23, right.
And Kopecky won like a ton of spring classics and the world championship. And Weebus had 23 wins or something they crushed it. And yet something, I think the dissolution of Vollering, I think because people were talking about Vollering leaving that team for quite some time because their contract, was running out or whatever. And something happened this season. It's completely obvious.
Yeah,
what happened in the Tour de France and everything. So
we'll get into that later.
So my point is that the outlook is it could go either way. It could be like, okay, now we've got Vollering out of there. She was the problem. She had that contract thing looming over her head, and she wouldn't give us an answer. And so now we got Anna. Is down to pound, like she's ride or die for this team. She is her goals are not at all getting in the way of Kopecky, of Vivas, and so we're hoping to get the 2023 magic back.
That's the key to her goals. Do they align better with Kopecky. Because I mean, look, look, if you were asking me like which rider you want to hitch your horse to, it's Kopecky. Like, and again, I don't have any context with Van de Breggen. I've heard obviously nothing but good things, and all the commentators always talk about how special she was. But at the end of the day, she's also a much older rider. You know what I mean? And if you're going like, okay, who's wagon are we hitching these horses to? It's like, it makes more sense to go to the world champion versus the retiree. So I don't know.
Yeah. I'm very excited to see if she'll race Flesh Wallone, because she mopped up that race like some crazy like 8 years in a row. Like she won it many years. It was either like 6 or 8. I feel like it was an even number.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like for a while it was just like her and Valverde. Like no matter what, one of the two of them was winning that freaking race every year for like a 3-year run or something.
So another thing that I think that you'll like. So obviously Demi's going to FDJ Suez, and Juliette Labousse is also going to FDJ. So I think that I think it'll be interesting to see how that fit works for Demi. Obviously, I assume she's going to a place where all of the focus will be on her. You know what I mean? So, which should hopefully, I mean, she's so good that, I feel like it probably doesn't matter where she is. You know what I mean? If she's got good pieces, I think she's going to be just fine.
So yeah, they've got on FDJ Suez, Marta Cavalli, Amber Kroc. She was really good at the end of the season. And while they're losing my girl, Cecily Udrip-Ludwig. But yeah, that should be a good squad. I feel like Marta Cavalli was, I need to look it up. I think she was the rider who was having like an incredible season back in like 2021. She won, I think she did like the Demi Vollering like Ardennes Classic Triple or something like that, and then had a terrible injury and has never been the same. I can't remember if I'm thinking of the right person. But yeah, I'm interested to see what'll happen. I mean, for sure that team will be 1,000% for Demi Vollering. Yeah. So she she'll be out of the toxic environment over there. It seems like a toxic environment at SD Works, and I don't know. I mean, I think on both ends of the equation, like it kind of bodes well. Like she'll be in a better place, hopefully, in terms of the psychology, and we'll have an entire team devoted to her. She did get the biggest like women's contract of all time, so she's got a lot of zeros in the bank account.
I get it. She look, as far as I'm concerned, she deserves it. I mean,
100%.
Outside of some absolutely insanely soul crushing losses this year that I know we're going to talk about later. The fact of the matter is that she's an absolute monster, and I think she's going to be successful wherever she is. And I think for us as fans, it also hopefully it gives us a little more parity across the peloton to where we're not getting these completely dominant rides like we are in the men's side.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like that's the way it was 2 years ago. Like a lot of her wins were just her just stomping people out. So
yeah,
that bodes well.
And in the year before, Annemiek van Vleuten, just smoked everybody for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that you have something to say about ELB leaving Little Trek to go to UAE.
Not really. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I feel, because I really love Lidl Trek. I loved her in Lidl Trek. I love the way that Italian Champions jersey with the Lidl Trek stuff on it. Look, I don't know. I don't know much about that team. I'm just a stan for ELB.
She probably got some zeros added to her contract too.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And she's gonna have Neem Fisher Black with her as well. So I think I think that is, or no, I'm sorry. Neem Fisher Black is going to Little Trek, which I think is really, really good for her. Sorry. I'm getting my transfers confused. So it'll be interesting. All right. So on your side of things, what are you looking at for this off season?
I'll go through mine quickly. My number one is Kat Ferguson. So what do you know about this woman?
I know that she's British, and I know that she won the. What did she win?
She won 4 junior world championships in 2024.
Okay, yeah.
She won 4. She won the road race. She won the TT. She won the Omnium on the track, and she won the the team pursuit. 4 world championships and 1 year junior. Now this is junior, so like it's definitely a different field that you're playing against. But I mean that can only bode well for her prospects. And I mean those wins.
Did she do well in the Olympics too?
No, I don't think she raced the Olympics. Maybe she did.
Maybe it's just the World Championships that I'm thinking of. But so yeah, no, I don't know. Other than the fact that she's British, I don't know really anything about her.
Yeah, she is just she's a hitter. So she's going to Movistar. She's going to have Leon Lip, Floydie Mackay, Sarah Martin, Emma Norsgaard, Claire Steele, and that team is going to be all about her, I would think. I mean, she's just like she's there as like a junior trainee kind of thing, but she's going to be on the elite squad. So she had a win, which is akin to something I'll be talking about in the next segment. She had a win this year in the it was like the 2024 East Cleveland Classic, and that's not like Cleveland in the United States. That's like Britain's Cleveland or whatever. Where
nobody's going to Cleveland, the United States. Sorry.
Yeah, she was destroying the field. It was like this really climby race, and she crashed out like in a right-hand turn, and minutes later was back on the front of this field, and this thing was like gone uphill hard when she crashed, and she came back and like won this race easy, just like smoked everybody. And I don't know, she's just exciting. She's also a crossover. She does cyclocross, track, etc. So very excited to see what happens with this woman.
A 2-wheel specialist.
She is a 2-wheel specialist, and it seems like every year on either in the men's or the women's or both, there's like somebody coming through who's going to be the big thing. Blah blah blah. You never know, but she's fun to listen to. She's just like like a proper working class Brit, and she's ready to go. So that's one thing. Cecily Triple-Ludwig to Canyon SRAM as a lieutenant for Kasia. I love that. I've always loved her. She is great in an interview and just has like a really, really fun kind of outlook on life, and is a great rider. I think she won a Tour Down Under stage last year or in 2024, and she was top 10 in the Tour de France this year. So she's got skills. I love her. I love Kasia. I can't wait to see the two of them working together.
I think that's nothing. I think that does nothing but help Kasia big time. I mean, I think that's a really, really good addition into that stable for sure.
Yeah, and is Chloe Dygert staying there, or did she transfer? I can't remember. I can't keep track of all this stuff.
When I was doing research, I didn't see anything on Chloe Dygert leaving. So, I mean, I can't imagine that they'd want to let her go. I mean,
no, they would definitely wouldn't. I just
talk about upswing.
What her contract status is. So yeah, so I'm stoked for that. And then the last thing, and this isn't really women specific, but I am just pumped for the World Championships in Rwanda. I'm like, that's just crazy.
It's gonna be very interesting.
It's going to be it's a 15 kilometer circuit, like in the capital of Rwanda. The men do it 15 times and the women do it 11. So that's kind of strange. Like, I mean, it's not strange that there would be a circuit in the World Championship, but it's just a circuit and it's a short one. So and it's like there's a bunch of like crazy climbs. There's a cobbled climb in it, and like a really nasty climb. So it's going to be really interesting. Just
it's gonna, you know what? But you know, I kind of dig those because they're. I mean, at least as far as what I've seen, they're typically a little bit more. There's a little bit more parity in it because you can't get, you know, those big long breakaways happening where you if it's tighter like that, you're not going to be. It's going to stay a little bit more bunched. I don't think you're going to see people getting away, which is going to make for a much better ending typically.
I don't think we've seen a world championships like this climby in quite some time. I mean, for the men, there's like 5,400 meters of climbing over the 200 and it's like 240 something kilometers, I think. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Like, I don't know exactly what the profile of rider, you know, besides Tadej Pogačar is the type for this. Although I know we're not supposed to be talking men's, but I don't know. This might play to Demi Vollering.
Absolutely.
So, and I know that woman is hungry to get that World Championships jersey on her. So certainly bodes well there. So, yeah. So that's what I would say is my big outlook for 2025.
I mean, I think we definitely are going to keep all eyes on Kat Ferguson because I think you're right, and I think that's good for Movistar too. Because I mean, I feel like Movistar's, you know, they have good pieces, but they don't really have anybody to build off of since Annemiek retired, and like obviously, you know,
I mean, Lippert's good,
tons and tons of success,
but yeah. Hey, we know they'll be better than the men's team. All right.
Ouch. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Right now, we're going to get into our favorite moments of last year as far as the women's pro cycling peloton is concerned. I know that my kind of first one was Lotte Kopecky winning at Paris-Roubaix. It was an extremely brutal, cold race, and Voss and Kopecky were just completely trading blows, you know, the whole time. And obviously, you know, Kopecky had a big target on her back, being that she was the world champ. You know, but also in the mix, you had Balsamo and Pfeiffer Georgie were also, you know, making it, you know, a really, really, really great race. But it wasn't until that like last lap in the velodrome where she was in like the fourth position and she was not there. And it was just this like mad dash and just her sheer power blowing past all of them. And I'm pretty sure that she ended up getting the win by like a bike length. And I mean, she just can't.
And I feel like she was like in fourth, like going into the final turn. Like I remember her like coming around it just blasting them out in like 75 meters or something like that. Yeah. I mean, that if there's ever a race that was just like picture perfect for her, like that's, you know, that just makes sense. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and it's obviously a very weird end on that velodrome because, you know, it's obviously that's not tarmac. It's a different, you know, surface, and the fact that she was able to like produce that power in that situation at that critical moment, it just shows how absolutely strong, you know, of a rider she is. She's just so
well. She does do like track stuff. Like, I mean, she's competitive in track cycling, so it's not like an environment that she's uncomfortable in. But yeah, I mean, that was like the whole thing with her and Voss. As I look back, like that was awesome. And I'd be honest, I would have rather seen Voss win, just because she's not gonna be around forever. I mean, God.
All right.
Like,
don't worry. We're gonna get into the Marianne Voss of things because she's on my list too. She definitely shows up because don't worry, she may not have won Paris-Roubaix, but she won a few things last year. My next one, all right, and then I'm going to let you take over. And I'd like to actually just kind of wrap up with Marianne Vos because I'm sure that you have a lot to say. But my second one was Cassia's first win since 2019 at Flesh Wallone. Rhiannon Marcus is soloing, all right, and as the pack is kind of closing in, and Cassia,
Rhiannon Marcus dropped like 17 seconds in like a second, 17-second lead in like a half a kilometer.
So far out in the lead, and just that pack.
As soon as it goes uphill,
yeah, that pack of riders is coming behind her so strong, and so. Cassie's team's pulling her along, and you have Vollerings there, Elisa Lamborghini's. They're both there. They're lurking really hard. Vollering has the complete laser focus going on, and you hit this final 19% of hopefully I'm not butchering this. The Mer de Huy. All right.
Who was that fourth rider? It was Vollering. Neodoma, Longa Borghini, and who was the Labuse? I can't remember. But
I can't remember.
That four though was perfect. Like they were just locked in there.
It's freezing cold, and they're going up 19%. And at the end. Longa Borghini, Vollering, and Cassia are all neck and neck, and Cassia surges with 100 yards or something to go.
I think it was like 50 meters.
Yeah, I mean it was such a short amount, and to pull it off, and just it was so great to see her win. Oh my God. Cause obviously we've seen all these other riders other than her win a lot in recent years. And to see her be able to pull that off was just amazing, man. Just the fact that she dominated, two of the biggest riders, in the women's pro peloton in that moment to pull out that win it was one of my favorite moments of the year. It really was.
It was awesome. It was like, I felt like it was very similar to Cavendish winning his Tour de France, getting his Tour de France record this year, in that, the world could breathe a collective sigh of relief as Cassia finally gets this elusive win that she's been looking for 5 years. I didn't look it up, but I cannot imagine the number of second places this woman has over that time span. And she's a beloved figure in the women's peloton. So everybody was so happy for her when she won. And boy, was it fun watching the immediate aftermath of the race and all the tears and everything. I mean, you can just see the relief washing over her. And it was beautiful. I tell you, it almost looked like she could have lost it right in the last 10 meters or so. I mean, she was so gassed. And I cannot remember who it was that was coming up right behind her, but oh man, it was, she finally played it perfectly. She's known for launching too early, and that's been her big downfall. It seemed like she just cannot help herself because she's so enthusiastic. She gets to 1,000 meters to go and just wants to go. And she kept it in check and did not make her move until 100 meters. And boom.
It paid off. It certainly paid off. And I mean, and I think it opens her up. It takes the pressure off. In a big way, which allows her to obviously go to even greater things later in the year.
Indeed.
So why don't you pick up from there?
Well, perfect segue right there at the top of my list, of course, is her Tour de France win. And it's the Flesh win sort of set the stage for it. Flesh is sort of, I don't know, it gets trashed in the press some. There's a lot of critics that just don't like that race at all because it's super boring, and then they go up a giant climb. I don't know. I like it. I've always liked it. I think it's cool. Okay, how many races do I only watch the last 5 kilometers of anyways? It's guaranteed to be fireworks in that race every single time. So I like it. And yeah, it was cool that it was there that she finally got the big win after the 5 years, and now, like you said, she's relaxed and she rolls into the Tour de France. And I mean, there's definitely a big case to be made that if stage 5 doesn't happen, that Cassia doesn't win. That's fine. She won. That's one of the big things with bike racing. You got to be there or thereabouts. Just because it looks like you're going to get smacked down by the person who's crushing everybody else, you still fight for second place, because anything can happen in a bike race. You can fall off the side of a mountain and suddenly you're in first. So
and anything happened.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this year in one of the races, somebody was in the green jersey and had it sewn. Oh, well, Van Aert had green sewn up in the Tour de France, and out he went, and
No, it was in the Vuelta.
Or in the Vuelta, yeah, and everything changed. And who won? Caden Groves. I think.
Yes, yeah, Caden.
Yeah, so there you go. So it was incredible. I went back and watched it, and I mean, you cannot tell me that there was a better finish to any bike race than the Women's Tour de France in 2024. I mean,
it was what? It was 4 seconds, right?
4 seconds. Unbelievable. I mean, that's, people talked about you'd never see the Le Mans Laurent Fignon finish bested, but there it was, 4 seconds. I think they were 9. I think theirs was 9 or 11 or something like that. 4 seconds. So exciting, so intensely exciting. And I mean, Vollering came across the finish with authority. Like, she turned on the afterburners with 50 meters to go and sprinted that out as hard as she could. And it was, of course, she's sitting there 100 meters past the finish line, trying to recover as Cassia finishes. So all of this drama just plays out in this very, very small amount of space where the cameras are panning around. You can see people in the background slumped over and Cassia was just flat out sobbing, sobbing.
And Demi was just soul crushed,
broken.
I mean, just it was everything that you want in a bike race, in my opinion. It was the fact that it came down to such a small margin. It was just unbelievable. It really was it was so good. It was really good.
Well, and that's it's one of the things that I absolutely love about professional cycling is the end of bike races very often hands you a big old bowl of happiness and a big old bowl of sadness. You know what I mean? Because I was gutted for Demi in that situation. She didn't deserve that. She really deserved to win, but so did Cassia. You know what I'm saying? They both would have been completely deserving winners. And so no matter what, I was destined to be happy and to be sad at the end of that race, and that's the beauty of cycling.
And there were so many factors in that Tour de France to what cost Demi probably just a cruise to it win. And so but it just goes to show you that in bike racing you can't take it for granted. And it's yes, we have these dominant riders, but even these dominant riders can have bad days. When you look back at Remco, getting knocked out of did he get knocked out of the Vuelta or the Giro with COVID, where he was completely dominating? It was the Giro.
Yeah, I think the Giro. Yeah. Yeah.
So, it can happen. The possibility is there. So, it just goes to show that you're right. You race every day. The whole, you always go to the end because you don't know what's going to happen. And in this case, because, the impossible happened, the door was open for her to take that win. And, God, it was so great. It was so fun to watch. So,
yeah. And honestly, what a great Tour de France in general. I mean, you had Charlotte Kool finally getting the best of Lorena Vibas on the stage 1. So Kool gets to wear the yellow jersey. She gets that second stage win on 2. So she wins 2 Tour de France. I mean, that was just a lovely, lovely story. Then you got the Puck Peters win on stage 4, and that girl is just cute as a button, and just gives such a good interview, and just young, youthful enthusiasm. Then you had the stage 5 drama with like SD Works. Just, I mean, like it was terrible to see it, but like it's good drama. And what's her name? Like
the girl went up ahead, right? Like, isn't that what happened in stage 5? That
I'm pretty sure both Vivas and Blanca Voss were ahead, and Blanca Voss was spring and gets 4th, and like absolutely should have abandoned her desire for a stage win, immediately gone back and helped Demi Vollering. I mean, if Voss and Vivas throw themselves into helping Vollering right then, that team wins the Tour de France. I mean, that's when it was lost, right then and there. So, and then you had Mariana Voss taking like fighting for that green jersey and finally grabbing it like on stage 7 or something like that, and she keeps it. Razor thin victory. I mean, like the whole thing was just incredible.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great tour. It really was.
And then so my next one was ELB taking Flanders and the Giro d'Anna. The Flanders win was just. It was just her hanging in there until she could win the sprint. You know, she got herself in a position, and she was definitely the favorite for the sprint. She had a teammate. She got it done. You know, Dunzo. That's a massive race on her Palmares, and she gave a phenomenal interview afterwards, and had some really like cool stuff to say about her husband. Like it was very sweet. Like, you know, like just she talked a lot about just what it means to have the support of your spouse like that, and how he was there for her like in her dark moments. And you know, I don't know, as a married guy, I loved to see her like shouting out the supportive hubby.
And she's such a deserving winner, and she's such a great, you know, I don't know, she's a great presence to me all the time. And you know, I love the fact that you picked her, you know, her winning the Giro, because I think that, you know, of all races for her, that, you know, what a great race to win. And, you know, her performance in it was so good. And you know, I love it when, I think that's one of the things that I really like about cycling, is that I love it when people that really deserve a big win get the big win. I always say that I root for greatness, but it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch her really control that race like the whole time.
Yeah, she had the pink jersey the whole time.
Yeah, and the fact that, like, you know, you have, you know, like we just said, anything can happen. The fact that she was able to hold on to it the whole time and win. And it was really fun to watch. It was a really, really great, you know, I feel like all 3 of the Grand Tours for the women this year were very good. So, you know, I can't complain at all.
Agreed. You want to do your last one?
So my last one obviously is, you know, I wanted to talk about the GOAT and how great of a year that Marianne Vos had. So I noted it out, so I just want to kind of read it off. So she had wins at Omloop, Dwarsdor Vandalen, which I know I just butchered that pronunciation. She won at the Amstel Gold, which had that super crazy finish where she threw the bike in front of Lorena Wiebes, who was celebrating. So Lorena Wiebes is like, yeah,
oh boss,
like, no,
wily, so wily,
just like no kid, that ain't how you bike it. All right. And then,
so great, man.
And she wins. She also has the overall victory.
Was that the one? Wait, was that the one? I know one of those. Like there was one spring classic that she hadn't won, and she got it this year. I don't know if that was the. Nah, she had won Amstel Gold before. I think it was Dwarsdor.
Yeah,
it was Dwarsdor Omloop. It was one of those two. But anyways.
And then she has the overall victory at Catalunya. All right, she gets the green jersey in both the Tour de France and the Vuelta. All right, silver medal in the Olympics. All right, and then just for fun, she won the world championship on the gravel this year. All right, 255 wins. What a career!
Yeah, definitely the GOAT. I mean, she's just incredible. She literally does not seem like nobody's talking about her retiring.
it's just like,
and she's what is she? What is she? 39.
Yeah, I mean, she's like Jesus.
She's like she's like 38, 39, like crazy. I mean, more power to her. I want her to keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah. As long as she wants to ride, man. She's super entertaining. She's always super nice. She gives great interviews.
Yeah, she's got wonderful parental support. You're always seeing her parents hanging around. Like, I love the fact that like her parents are just like still just right there, even after 255 wins. I guess that would be amazing if your kid was doing that.
But it's
she was the shining star of this Lisa fight this year.
Which is it's just crazy. It's crazy to, like, in that moment where she shows the fact that like her tactics are so good. Like, she is an absolute tactician on the race course. She does not leave anything to chance, and it shows, and it's why she's won 255 times, man. She is a force to be reckoned with when she's on the race course. Period. You have to give her some amount of respect. If you sleep on her like Lorraine Wiebes did, done. She's taking the win.
Yeah. She's awesome. I love that pick for sure. I mean, it's just again, you're that's one of those ones you're always going to be happy when she wins. She's Marianne Vos. Like, you can't. Nobody hates her. Like, I don't know. Maybe Belgians. Belgians hate her. That's who hates Marianne Vos. Belgians. So yeah. All right. My last one. Is I'm going to shoehorn two of them in here together because they were both great. One is Kristen Faulkner taking the Olympic gold medal, just like awesome. And I feel like I feel like she had gotten some kind of big win right before that as well. But yeah, just an American wins the Olympic gold medal. Like, it's just unheard of. I'm still in disbelief. Because it's American cycling. Like, we get our moments. We got our Sepp Kuss last year. Like, maybe we get like one or two big things each year, if that. And the Olympic gold medal, I mean, that's good for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, the USA's got the Olympic gold for the next 4 years.
We can dine out on that for a while. You are correct.
Exactly, and it was a great win the way she did it. I mean, she just attacked at the precise moment and never looked back, including as she went across the finish line a full minute in front of everybody else, and just was like head down, going as hard as she could. Versus, you put that next to Remco, who like rolls up and takes the bike off and gives the photo op and hangs up the phone. Nah, Kristen Faulkner was just like, so that was great. And then the other one was Grace Brown. I mean, you got to shout her out because not only, I mean, she the two big wins were the Olympic TT, but the win at LBL, and this is her last season. She is retired. Like, to go out on top like that is incredible with a world championship and a monument in your last season. Forget about it.
I love Liège-Bastogne-Liège. I think that is a great.
Oh man,
it's one of my favorites.
And she almost endoed with, it was like 7Ks to go. They're coming out of a roundabout, and it was like a really tight roundabout, and especially the exit for them. It was like they went around the right hand side, and it was like just this really tight exit. And one of them, I think Cassia, went across the grass, but was like, she didn't end up. Like, Grace Brown was closer to the front. It was a group of like 6 of them, and she was closer to the front, and she had to throw her brakes on because that turn was so tight. They didn't see it coming so tight like that, and almost endos and comes off the bike. Cassia is like right behind her and manages to just like stay to the right of her, and she goes across this little grassy thing but doesn't lose much momentum. But Grace Brown like basically loses all of her momentum keeping it together. She also goes over the grass. There was like a little berm, there was like a knob in the grass right there, and she was going to slam right into that. So now she finds herself behind all 7 of these riders, or all 6 of the other riders, with 7Ks to go. And it's Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the final 7Ks, like, they're going hard in front. So she has to, on her own, like, TT her way back into that group, which she manages to get contact again with like 4Ks to go, and wins the sprint in the end, times the sprint absolutely perfectly. and wins it in the end. It was an absolutely beautiful victory. She's awesome. One of the podcasts I listen to is the SBS cycling podcast, which is an Australian thing. So they're all in for the Australian riders on that podcast. And she was like super generous with her time all year long. So I've heard a bunch of interviews with her. She's awesome. And what a great finish to a season. I love to see that. Like when Annemiek took the World Championship road race in her last season. Oh my God, that's like one of my favorite finishes of all time. That was incredible. So yeah, that's.
Do you mean when she broke her wrist?
Yeah, well, she was riding on a broken wrist.
Or riding, yeah, she was riding on a broken wrist. Yeah.
Yeah, she literally sat on the back acting like she was non-contention. It was like a group of 10 riders, and she hung on the back of them for like 12 kilometers and then just like smoked them all with a wily move in the end. That was an incredible race. But we're not here to talk about 3 years ago or whatever.
This is true. Well, what a tremendous year in women's cycling. Such great moments. Obviously, we're looking forward to all the things that we, are going to see next year. But we're going to take a break. We're going to change gears, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a fun podcast that Matt found and turned me on to called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, the 2000s. So we'll talk about that when we get back. All right, welcome back. Now we're going to talk about a podcast that I was just recently introduced to called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, the 2000s. It recently started its new season, and I don't have a ton of experience with it, so I'm going to kick this over to you, Matt, let you kind of explain how it works, and then I'd love to talk about it because it was a really fun listen for me this week.
60 Songs That Explain the 90s. Amazing podcast. It's part of the Ringer network of podcasts, which have literally dozens of different podcasts that they do. They're big into sports, but they also do a lot of pop culture stuff. So I listen to several of their podcasts, including Mansplain, The Big Picture, Dissect, are some of my favorites. All of those pop cultural related. And 60 Songs is this guy, Rob Harvilla. He's like a music critic, has been writing for years and years, and seized on this idea for 60 Songs. Put out this podcast. It was wildly popular. So he did, obviously the first run was 60 songs. Because of its popularity, he was able to just like re-up and do 60 more. So he's at this point, he has 120 songs in the back catalog for the 90s, and again maintains all that popularity. And they talked him into doing it for the 2000s. So now we're like 6 or 7 episodes into the 2000s, and I'm very psyched about it because we got 50 something episodes to go in the 2000s, and I love every single one of them. I like it because he's very well versed in this stuff, and he doesn't limit himself to certain genres. He will talk literally about every single kind of genre that's out there if it was important during that decade, which I love because some of the stuff I know really, really, really well. Others parts of it I don't know well at all. But the real genius, the real majesty of the show is Rob Harvilla and his very quirky way of his writing is just funny. He's just a funny guy. He's very self-effacing, and
he's got a great delivery. I really, really, really like, his delivery, his presence, during the podcast. His takes are excellent. Like, as some, obviously I'm a kid of the 90s. So all of that tends to be, inside of my wheelhouse. It's awesome to see, somebody, kind of reliving that. It also makes me sad because I'm starting to get older, and I realize now that like the songs that they're talking about right now are like the songs that when I was the age that I was then, we would be talking about songs from the 60s and the 70s. And so it's like, it's wild to me to feel like, oh, okay, this is where we're at in life, where the stuff that I grew up on is now the oldies.
Yeah, for sure. What I really love is just the way he will take you back in time and dial you right into specifically like what he was doing, what he was listening to. Like he will introduce, characters from his life, and the self-effacing part of it is what's so great. I mean, he was like an aspiring bass player at some point, and yeah, he's just a funny guy, and it's just like, to me, it's just such an enjoyable show. It's like equal parts humor and like good background information, which is why anybody listens to this kind of stuff, to learn, new little factoids about, your favorite bands and music. And he's just got a really great delivery, great knowledge, great outlook, funny guy. So
I really appreciate the fact that he's not, that you said earlier that he doesn't shoehorn himself into one genre, and that very much defined the 90s for me, because I was on a very much a roller coaster from the early part of the 90s to the later part of the 90s as far as what music I was into. Obviously I'm part of that MTV generation, so I was exposed to so much of that stuff early on, but then, kind of getting into, where I started discovering music of my own, because I was in certain orbits as far as, music was concerned, and then somebody would turn me on, and, I know, the first episode I listened to was In the Club, which was really awesome, because that's a 2000 song. But the second one that I listened to was Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me by the Wu-Tang Clan, and that is like just a super, super seminal album for me. That is a super seminal song. Remembering exactly kind of where I was. I can remember being in the back of mom and dad's minivan with my Discman listening to 36 Chambers, and because my friend Chuck Atwell was like, dude, you got to listen to this, like you like this, listen to this. And I remember going to like Best Buy and like getting the CD and all of the stuff that was around it. And so like the fact that this podcast all of a sudden transported me right back to that moment in my life as he's relating it to his life was just really good, man. Because it's like music's one of those things that's, it's very transportive. It will, it fires up those synapses in your brain, to be like, oh yeah, this will make you think of this time and these things that were happening because of that. And so it's just really, really neat, man. I was really glad that you turned me on to it, and I'm definitely going to listen to more of it for sure.
Yeah, I think he's probably maybe a little bit younger than I am, but he's sort of right around the same time. And so yeah, like the 90s stuff especially is right in my sweet spot. I feel like, most people the age between somewhere around 15 to like 28, 29, like in that area is like really where like is like your music. Like that's where your music that defines you sort of kind of comes from. And so I relate the way you did with that with the Cream episode, like so deeply with so many of the 90s ones. What I'm liking about this season is most of the stuff in the 2000s, it was not my music. You know what I mean? I'm very familiar with all of it, damn near all of it. I know all the songs he's going to talk about. Because obviously when you're talking about 60 songs over the course of an entire decade that are, decade defining, by his definition of the show, well then of course, like you will have heard most or all of the songs if you're any kind of a music fan. So it's not like I don't know them, but it's not really my music in the sense that it was the stuff that was so formative to me. So for this particular season, I'm really enjoying the journey of discovery of that music as much as I am enjoying the humor of it. Whereas in the original 2 seasons, the original 120 songs, it was all about Rob on those, because I know all that stuff really, really well. Not that I wasn't learning stuff about it, but just his sense of humor. I like it when he makes like I love it when he's talking, like when he does his voice, he uses his voice to like describe sounds and stuff like that. He's like, there's nothing better than when that drum bass hits. It's like, he makes these funny noises and stuff. He's like, and in a way,
he does a really good job of calling back like a visual, like in like really making it so that you can see that what he's talking about in your mind. He's good at that.
Yeah, and his love of music just in general, and it comes through so powerfully. I mean, you can tell that like this is the only thing that this guy cared about when he was younger. He was so deeply into it. He was so deeply affected by these things, and the music, the lyrics, the feel, the music videos, and everything. He's just a great podcaster, and it's cool. I think I've mentioned to you before that he's part of this Ringer network, and these shows that I listen to from that thing, they share all these shows will the hosts and stuff from the different shows will go on the other people's shows, so it's not unusual for Rob to crop up on the Dissect podcast talking about hip hop, or for Rob to crop up on the Bandsplain talking about one of the things that Yassi's talking on Bandsplain, and vice versa. Yassi will be because Rob brings in a guest at the end of every 60 songs to talk, to kind of broaden out the conversation. And so you'll see Yassi from Bandsplain come on 60 songs. And so that's, I think, one of the things about listening to a lot of different podcasts is these people become like family members to you. All these guys, and Chris Ryan and Sean Fennessy and all these guys, they're like your buddies.
It's the podcast version of the Don and Mike show, where you had all this cast of characters. Yeah.
Don and Mike show. Oh my God, put that on the list of topics. I want to talk about the Don and Mike show. We'll have nine listeners.
Do we talk about? Hold on. I mean,
or the Grease Man. Habudugaga.
Yeah, gabadoogie. All right. Yeah, we're gonna get off topic. All right. It's funny with the two. I'm very interested in the 2000s too, because I was obviously 2001. I'm a young parent, and I was super into rap music back then. So I mean, like when he's like describing all the stuff about around Indie Club, I can remember I remember when that album came out. I remember everything about it. I remember the fact that this guy had his whole kind of cadence changed by the being shot 9 times, 1 time in the face, and it was just, he does a really good job of really putting you in the moment of that song, which is really an interesting thing that he does. He has a unique way of really capturing that moment around the music. And for me, as someone that's super into music, and I understand how transformative it can be, it's so refreshing to hear other people have that same kind of connection with music.
For sure, and I like the fact that with certain songs that are more like the stuff that he was really into, he brings so much to the conversation. But on the ones where it's not necessarily his deep love, he'll bring in the expert that's got all the deep stuff, and so the interview segment at the end is just as rewarding as the Rob part in the beginning, because very often he'll pick someone who was deep into that band, or was part of that scene, was a journalist in New York when that band was big back then, like the MGMT episode. I can't remember the name of the guy that he was talking to, but that dude was right there in New York when MGMT was doing their thing and on the come up, and
the kid that he had on for the 50 Cent one, where he was talking, I loved his take on it, because he was talking about his dad, or or maybe maybe that was the Cream episode. The guest on that was talking about his dad, and how, he wanted, his dad loaded up his iPod with like all the best rap music, and it's like, how great, like good job, Dad. Like, good job that you didn't just let your kid listen to garbage. Good for you.
Well, and his kid actually listened to it. Unlike my daughters, I'd be more than happy to load up an iPod for my daughters. Never listened to it in a million years.
Oh, dude, I will say this, that Connor has done a very good job of, like, when we tell him to listen to something, like, he's gotten into it. But he's got his own, like, music thing. We'll talk about it at some other at another point when we're not recording. But you will get through them eventually. There will be a time when they, like, start to connect with something. Whether or not you'll get them to connect with your shit, good luck. You got some weird taste, man. I've been trying to get my wife to listen to Indigo Girls for 20 years. Anyway,
Indigo Girls.
Go out. We highly recommend. Give it a listen. It's on all the podcast platforms. It's on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. 60 songs that explain the 90s, the 2000s. Please go out and listen to it. You will absolutely enjoy it if you are a music lover. We'll be right back. We're going to take just a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to get out the broom wagon and clean up this episode. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. All right, guys, we're going to climb into the broom wagon here and clean up this episode. What I really wanted to throw out there this week was a new follow on Instagram. It is a rapper that does these amazing videos. So first off, his name is Black Zeus X. All right. His real name is Mandela Eskia, but his Instagram handle is Black Zeus X. And what he does, he's got some of his rap stuff on there, and he's actually pretty good. But like the bread and butter of his Instagram feed is he takes old cartoons from like my day and age, like Transformers and the like comic book stuff like Spider-Man and X-Men and G.I. Joe, and he puts up the video, but then he explains to the audience his version of what's happening on the screen, and he puts a very new age spin on these old things, and it is absolutely hilarious, where he's talking about the ops, and he takes these very, like, great cartoons from my childhood and puts a very funny spin on what's going on in them that is a little bit more in line with the views of the current generation.
But is he rapping over it, or is he talking over it?
He's like talking over those ones, but then he also has some where he does like cartoon raps, and then he has some where he just cuts in his own rapping like over other things. So it's a great follow. It's a good mix of little things, but for any child of the 80s, 90s, you will absolutely love watching this guy's reels, man. They are very, very funny. So Black Zeus X on Instagram. Go follow him.
I will have to do that. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'd love stuff like that. All right, today for my broom wagon topic, I'm going to recommend a movie from 1981, I believe, directed by Louis Malle. It's called My Dinner with Andre, and this is a kind of a bizarre movie. It will be very much unlike anything you've ever seen. Essentially, it is a movie that is a conversation between two theater guys. There's about 5 minutes in the beginning. It's sort of from one of the points of view, the point of view of one of the two guys. The two guys are Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory. Wallace Shawn will be familiar to people. He's a very familiar face from the movies. I think his most well-known role is as the sort of bad guy in The Princess Bride. He's the short little guy that's like inconceivable. Yeah, he's got the funny voice. I know he was one of the voices in Toy Story. One of the Toy Story toys was, I think, maybe the dragon or he was one of the things in Toy Story. So he's like the young, like up and coming director in 1981, working in the New York theater scene. And then Andre Gregory is this guy who's like, a generation older than him, who's like a successful theater director. And so it starts off with Wallace Shawn sort of talking about his life as a theater director as he is making his way to go have this dinner with Andre Gregory, this sort of like old acquaintance of his, who's invited him out to dinner. And he sort of talks about the struggles of being an up-and-coming, playwright in New York and the things that they have to do to scrape by. And then he sort of speculates about, Andre Gregory and why they want to, what they're going to talk about and everything. And he's a little apprehensive going into this thing. And then they arrive at the restaurant. They say hi to each other. They go grab a table. And literally the entire rest of the movie is just the two of them having a conversation. And it's a weird, fascinating conversation. When I first saw it, I was kind of blown away just because I was interested in these sort of theater-related topics. And I remember getting out a boombox, putting a cassette tape in it, setting it up in front of the TV, and recording the audio of the thing because it's just like one long conversation. And I probably listened to that thing 20 times. So I've listened to the movie 20 times, and I've now watched it twice, I think. It was kind of funny watching it the second time, like watching it now because I'm so familiar with the audio of that movie. But yeah, if you want something a little bit different, a little bit avant-garde, check out My Dinner with Andre, and good luck making it to the end. So, imagine I'd end up being a person that was into listening to podcasts and two people talking. So it was all right there from the get-go. There you go.
Well, on that note, that's all for this week. Join us next week when we are going to talk about the men's side of the coin and dive into all the latest transfer news and look ahead to the 2025 men's cycling season. In our second segment, we are going to kind of mirror this week and relive our favorite moments from the men's side from last year. And finally, in our third segment, we're going to break down Stage 19 of the 2023 edition of the Tour de France and the emotional interview after that race that hit the cycling world right in the feels. We'll talk about all that and more. And until then, for my brother Matt, I'm Justin Harper, and thank you for joining us on another ride beyond the slipstream.
Allez!
Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!